Hey everyone, Tech Gamer here. In this video I will be demonstrating how to take off during a snowstorm in an Airbus A320. So stay tuned and let's do this. Okay, so here we are sitting at gate 75C and we are ready to go ahead and start up this Airbus A320. So let's go ahead and switch to cockpit view. And our first step is to turn on the batteries. So we need to select both batteries, set them to on, and then set the external power to on, turn on the engine bleeds, and then start up the APU master and the starter. And we need to wait for the starter to change to avail or available. That typically takes a minute to do. You don't necessarily need to wait for that step on this particular plane, but I do just for good practice. Should be switching any second here. So what it's doing is it's basically powering up the auxiliary power units. So we are now in avail. The next step is to turn on the APU bleed, turn off external power, and at this point we are being pushed back from the gate. Turn on our fuel pumps, we'll do the mains, then the pumps on the wings that feed the engines, and turn on our beacon lights. And in this case we'll turn on the de-icers because it is snowing outside and we don't want to take any chances. So the next procedural step is to set the engine master mode to IGN start and then turn on our engines. So now the engines are starting up, as we can see by the center illuminated display. And you can look out the cockpit window, you'll see we are being pushed back from the gate. Switching outside here, just watch this for a minute here while we're waiting for the engines to ramp up. So what we want to see is that both engines are coming operational together and with the same basic output parameters. And then if anything needs adjustment, now is the time, obviously before we fly. So as we can see, engines are idle and looking good. So let's go ahead and select the engine mode and switch it to normal. And then turn off the APU bleed. So that basically has completed the pre-flight checklist for everything in the cockpit, including engine controls. Our next step here is to wait until we are pushed out from the gate, and then we will be cleared to taxi to our runway for takeoff. So as you can see, it is snowing very hard and visibility is incredibly limited. So I'm going to show you the nice assistant tool for taxiing that is provided by Microsoft in this game. If you watch my recent video, I demonstrated this procedure as well, but I'll do it again here. So Microsoft provides a number of tips to help you navigate this game for novice and less experienced players. One of the most important ones is taxi assist mode. So what that does is it basically illuminates a path to get you to your runway safely. Now, in this kind of weather, it's near impossible to see what's ahead of you. So you need to know how to follow the lights on the ground and follow the signs all over the place. And they're just numbers and arrows and everything. It's incredibly difficult to figure out for the novice player. So what we'll go ahead and do here once we complete our pushback is to turn on that taxi assist mode. Now for that to work, you need to have a destination airport selected. In this case, we're going to be flying a long haul flight to Tampa, Florida to pick up some COVID and bring it back to New Jersey. Just kidding. So continuing our pushback here, we'll just give this another minute or so to complete. I love the realism in this game. You can see the ground control staff assisting. You can see the baggage trucks. Sometimes I've noticed there's a little bit of a, like, just flukes, like a car will drive by and just drive right through you, or a truck, or any kind of vehicle for the airport. You'll see that happen periodically while you're being pushed back. So continuing the pushback here, we should be almost done. This is a tedious wait, but it gives the time for the plane to warm up and us to make sure all of our systems are ready to go. I recommend, if you're going to be flying a long haul, you configure your autopilot settings, altitude, and directions and all of that stuff prior to taxiing, because you don't want to forget something. It's a pain to do while you're in the air, especially in inclement weather. So we will be completing our pushback shortly here. As you can see, there are planes landing behind us. I typically like to fly with the game set on real world weather and experiences to mimic what it'd be like to actually fly a plane. But in this case, obviously, since it's summer and like 90 degrees outside, this weather is set by me. So we've just about completed our pushback, and very shortly the ground control staff will release their little vehicle, and then we will be free to taxi.
Newark ground, Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320 requesting the end of pushback.
There we go, we have been disconnected. And now we are ready to go ahead and start our taxiing process. So the first step to do that is to switch back to cockpit view for a moment. Actually, nah, I don't need to. I'm okay here. So I'm going to show you now how to go ahead and set the flight assistant to show us the path to our runway. So here we go. Going to the menu selection, we go to Flight Assistant and select Landing and Taxi Guides. Display direction is used when you are in the air. Again, this will only work when you have a destination programmed. So in my case, it's Tampa, Florida. So as you can see, we now have this nice blue arrowed path to follow. And there's even a rainbow during the snowstorm. So we're back in cockpit view here. The first step to start taxiing is we need to release the parking brake, which is located right here. And then we need to feather the throttle up just enough to make us start moving, and while holding the right rudder so that we do basically almost a 360 degree turn without moving very much. Because again, we don't want to hit anything or anyone. That would just be irresponsible. So, beginning our turn now. Again, feathering the throttle is the way to do this. As you fly each plane, you'll get used to what it takes to get the plane started. And then keep turning here. And once we complete our turn, we will go ahead and follow the taxi path we have illuminated for us. Now, as you can see, there goes a vehicle. Probably just went right through our wing, but that's okay. So, following this path makes everything so much easier. Now, again, you don't need to be exact. You're not looking for precision. You're just looking for a general path to the runway. So, I always recommend, though, do the best of your ability to follow it, because there could be other air traffic going on. There could be vehicles on the roadway here, and you hit something, it could end your game before you even take off. So we'll just go ahead and be mindful of that and following the path to the right. You can use your brakes to slow down or throttle the engines back before you turn. The faster you're going, the harder it is to turn in a jet of this size, and that goes for any jet in this game. So, as you can see, we've got a little zigzag path to follow here, so we're just going to go ahead and follow it nice and slow. I'll speed up once in a while, probably just when I'm sure that there's nothing around and I don't have to worry about like overshooting the taxiway or anything along those lines. So this is the path you would follow even if you didn't have the taxi assist on. So what I recommend you do when you play this game is always pay attention to the markers and the signs that are around, because they tell you where you're going and what you're looking for. And once you learn to navigate those on the different runways, it makes every taxiing that much easier, and you won't need this assist anymore. So here we've reached our entry point to our runway, which is runway, I think we're on 22R. So go ahead and slow down here and brakes. So as you can see, sometimes you will come to a complete stop too early. If you do, just go ahead and move forward. And once you reach the end of the illuminated taxi path, the AI in the game will automatically signal air traffic control that you're ready for takeoff. And as you see, a new path appears. So while the ATC is doing their thing and our co-pilot, we can talk about this new path. That path you don't necessarily need to follow. That path is very confusing. At night or during a rainstorm, when it's dark, it is very difficult to see the runway. So that path makes you think you want to go that way. In reality, in this case, you don't. You just want to go out and turn, make a gentle turn right onto the runway. You don't need to worry about precision, lining it up dead center or anything like that. You can compensate for that as you take off. But if you go that way and bear to the left, I've made that mistake before where I say, okay, the runway's that way. And then as soon as I get to the end, I think I'm already cleared for takeoff, and I hit full throttle, and then next thing I know, I'm in the grass or flying into a highway. So always be cognizant of the area around you when you reach the next point of travel in a assisted taxi scenario. So we are now lined up on runway 22R, and as you can see, we're not perfect, but again, you can compensate for that as you fly. So let's go ahead and ramp the engines up to 100%. Here you would typically want to set the flaps down one or two. It's all up to you. The best practice is usually at least one set of flaps, but because this is just a practice scenario, I'm not concerned about that. So as you can see, we're passing 100 and we're gaining speed. This is very important at this point to remember. Your de-icers are on, your engine de-icers are on, all of that stuff, because if an engine freezes or a wing freezes, you'll crash. So we have liftoff and we have rotated. So let us bring our engine gear, landing gear up. As you can see, it's coming up. And we'll continue our upward flight. Now, you don't need to really even do anything. You can just kind of let it sit. As you see, our trim is automatically being adjusted by the flight computer to keep us in a steady climb. The only thing you have to watch for, depending on weather scenarios, which I'll show you, is your airspeed. So depending on the weather scenarios, your airspeed can be adjusted automatically and compensated for by the flight computer. So in some cases, though, it'll actually cause you to stall out if you're not careful. So as you can see, we've now entered a green zone on our control here. I hit some wind there. And as we continue to climb through the clouds, we can hit some turbulence and other stuff like that that can actually really cause your plane to slow down. So you want to keep that in mind as you pass through clouds. As you can see, you can't see a thing out the cockpit windows. So for this case, I like to keep it at just this kind of view, because you get a nice view of the passing through the clouds. So as you can see, my airspeed's a little slow. You have to compensate for the 100% trim that the flight control computer automatically does by pulling it back down. But in this case, again, I'm not worried about that. My main goal was just to show everyone how to take off. So, I would like to thank everyone for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed learning about how to take off during a snowstorm in an Airbus A320. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel, and we will have more exciting stuff coming soon. Thanks, everyone.